The darkness of space stretched endlessly before Lieutenant Han Jay as he guided his salvage ship through the debris field. Chunks of metal and broken spacecraft parts floated past his viewport like leaves in a gentle stream. His small crew of 4 had been out here for 3 weeks, looking for valuable materials in the outer rim. "Sir, the sensors are picking up something big," said Officer Yoon Soo from her station. Her eyes were fixed on the glowing screen in front of her. "It's about 2 kilometers to our starboard side." Han Jay turned to look at the sensor readings. In his 15 years of salvage work, he had never seen numbers like these. "Are you sure the equipment is working right?" he asked, tapping the screen gently. "Yes, sir. I ran 3 checks already." Yoon Soo's voice held a mix of excitement and worry. "Whatever it is, it's massive." Han Jay nodded and pressed the ship-wide communication button. "All hands, prepare for a closer look. This might be something important." As their ship, the Morning Calm, moved closer to the mysterious object, the crew gathered at the bridge's viewing windows. The powerful searchlights cut through the darkness, revealing something that made them all gasp. That's impossible," whispered Chief Engineer Kang Ho, his coffee cup slipping from his fingers and floating away in the zero gravity. "That's a dreadnought, a real Kaiser-class dreadnought." The massive warship floated silently before them, its dark hull stretching farther than their searchlights could reach. Despite being lost in space for what must have been centuries, it looked almost untouched. The name on its hull was still clearly visible: KSS Dauntless. "The history books said they were all destroyed in the First Interstellar War," said Security Officer Moon Hee, her hand unconsciously touching the pistol at her hip. "This can't be real." Han Jay felt his heart racing. Every Korean child grew up hearing stories about the Kaiser-class dreadnoughts. They were humanity's greatest warships, built to defend Earth against the first alien threat it had ever faced. But they had all been lost in the great battles 200 years ago. Or at least, that's what everyone believed. Yoon Soo scanned for any active systems, Han Jay ordered, his voice steady despite his excitement. Kang Ho, check for hull damage. Moon Hee, keep our defensive systems ready, just in case. We don't know what we might find. The crew worked quickly, their fingers flying over their control panels. The silence on the bridge was broken only by the soft beeping of their instruments. "Sir, you won't believe this," Yoon Soo said, her voice shaking. "The ship, it's still powered. I'm detecting minimal but active energy readings from its core." "That's not possible," Kang Ho cut in. "The power cores on these ships were designed to last 50 years at most. It's been 200 years. Han Jia stared at the massive ship through the viewport. Something wasn't right here. The ship looked too perfect, too untouched by time. Even the paint on its hull still looked fresh. "Sir," Moon, he called out suddenly, "I'm picking up movement inside the ship. Very faint, but it's there. Some of the internal doors are opening and closing." Han Jay made his decision. As a salvage crew, they were required to report any significant historical finds to the Korean Space Exploration Corps. But this was beyond significant. This was probably the most important discovery in human space exploration history. He opened a channel to Earth Command. "This is Lieutenant Han Jay of the salvage ship Morning Calm. We found something in Section 47 of the Outer Rim. Something impossible." He paused, looking at the magnificent ship before him. "We found the KSS Dauntless. And, sir, I think it's still alive." The silence that followed his transmission felt heavier than the void of space itself. His crew watched him, waiting. They all knew that this moment would change everything. Humanity had just rediscovered one of its most powerful weapons, and somehow it had survived 2 centuries in perfect condition. As they waited for Earth Command's response, Han Jia couldn't shake the feeling that they hadn't just found a lost ship. They had found something that would change the course of human history, again. The massive dreadnought floated silently beside them, its dark hull reflecting the light from their searchlights. And somewhere deep inside its vast corridors, something was awakening, ready to reveal secrets that had been lost to time for 200 years. Captain Song Mai stood in the airlock of the KSS Dauntless, her heart beating fast inside her spacesuit. After 3 days of waiting, Earth Command had finally sent her to investigate the ancient warship. As the military's top historian, she had studied everything about the Kaiser-class dreadnoughts, but she never thought she would step inside one. "Remember, we stay together," Lieutenant Han Jae said through the radio. He stood next to her with his salvage crew. "No one wanders off alone." The airlock door opened with a soft hiss. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness of the ship's corridors. Everything was clean, too clean for a ship that had been lost for 200 years. "The air readings are normal," said Kang Ho, checking his instruments. "The life support systems are still working." "How is this possible?" Song Mi touched the wall. There was no dust. "It's like time stopped here," she said quietly. They walked through the corridors toward the bridge. Song Mi knew the way by heart from all the ship plans she had studied, but seeing it in person was different. The corridors were huge, designed for hundreds of crew members who had disappeared long ago. "Captain," called Moon Hee from behind them. "Look at this." She pointed to a screen on the wall. It was glowing faintly. Song Mi moved closer. Numbers and letters scrolled across the screen. "This is impossible," she whispered. "The ship's computer is still running." "Can you access it?" Han Jae asked, moving to stand beside her. Song Mi nodded and pressed her hand against the screen. It responded to her touch. "The interface is still active. Let me try something." She typed in her military access code. To her surprise, the screen changed. "Welcome, Captain Song Mi," a voice said from hidden speakers. Everyone jumped. "I have been waiting for someone with proper authorization." "Who? What are you?" Song Mi asked, her voice shaking slightly. "I am Admiral Kim Do, or rather, what remains of him. My consciousness was uploaded to the ship's AI core during our last battle." The corridor fell silent. Everyone knew about Admiral Kim Do. He was the greatest hero of the First Interstellar War, the commander who had disappeared with the Dauntless during humanity's darkest hour. "That's not possible," Kang Ho said. "I consciousness transfer was theoretical back then. It didn't work." "Young man," the voice said with a hint of amusement, "many things you think impossible happened on this ship. Would you like to know why we disappeared? Why we had to hide for 200 years? Song Mi stepped forward. "Yes, Admiral. Please tell us." "Follow my directions to the bridge," the AI said. "I will show you." They walked through more corridors, following the Admiral's voice. Lights came on as they moved, as if the ship was waking up around them. When they reached the bridge, the massive command center lit up. Screens flickered to life, showing star maps and data streams. "During our last battle," the AI began, "we discovered something terrible, something that could have destroyed humanity. The enemy we fought, the Nexus Empire, they weren't just fighting us. They were studying us, learning our weaknesses, and they planned to return." Holograms appeared in the air, showing scenes from the ancient battle. Ships firing at each other, explosions lighting up the darkness of space. "We found a way to defeat their shields," the AI continued. "But before we could share this knowledge, they deployed a temporal weapon. It was supposed to erase us from time itself. Instead, it trapped us in a temporal bubble. For us, only moments have passed. For the rest of the universe, it has been 2 centuries." Song Mi's mind raced. "Admiral, are you saying?" "Yes, Captain. The Nexus Empire will return. That is why we had to survive. This ship holds the key to defeating them, but we need your help to finish what we started." Suddenly, alarms blared through the ship. Red lights flashed everywhere. "What's happening?" Han Jae asked, reaching for his weapon. "Long-range sensors are active," the AI said, its voice urgent. "They're detecting ships entering the solar system. Ships with energy signatures I recognize." The AI paused. The Nexus Empire has returned. We have found them. Or rather, they have found us. Song Me looked at Hanjai and his crew. They all understood what this meant. They had just found humanity's greatest warship, complete with the consciousness of its legendary admiral. And they had found it just in time. "Admiral," Song Mai said, straightening her back. "What are your orders?" The lights on the bridge grew brighter, and more systems came online. The massive ship hummed with power, awakening from its long sleep. They could all feel it. History was about to change again. The bridge of the KSS Dauntless came alive with warning signals. Red lights flashed across the massive command center as more Nexus Empire ships appeared on the long-range scanners. 10 ships, 20, 40. Moon, he counted, her voice growing quieter with each number. They're spreading out across the solar system. "Show me their positions," Admiral Kim Du's eye commanded. The main screen lit up with a map of the solar system. Red dots appeared everywhere, showing enemy ships moving toward different planets and colonies. "They're attacking everything at once," Han Jie said, watching the screen. "Earth's fleet can't defend all these places." Song Mei studied the enemy positions. "They've learned from their last war. They're not giving us time to gather our forces." The AI's voice was calm but firm. "The Nexus Empire always learns from its defeats. That's what makes them dangerous. Captain Song Mei, please access the main tactical console. I need to show you something important." Song Mei sat at the large control panel. The screen showed detailed scans of the Nexus ships. "Their technology has improved," she said. "These ships are more advanced than the ones in our historical records." "Yes," the AI agreed, "but they still have the same weakness. Look at their shield patterns." As they watched, one of the Nexus ships fired its weapons at a small Earth defense station near Mars. The station exploded instantly. "We need to warn Earth Command," Han Jie said. He tried to use his communication device, but only heard static. "They're blocking our signals." Kang Ho ran to another console. "The Dauntless's communication systems are stronger." "Let me try." His fingers moved quickly over the controls. "There. I've got a connection to Earth Command." The main screen changed to show the face of Admiral Choi, the current head of Earth's defense forces. He looked worried. "Captain Song Mei." "Lieutenant Han Jie. What's happening out there?" Admiral Choi asked. "We're getting attack reports from all over the system." "Sir," Song Mai said quickly, "we've found the KSS Dauntless, and its AI contains the consciousness of Admiral Kim Du. The Nexus Empire has returned, just as they predicted 200 years ago." Admiral Choi's eyes widened. Before he could respond, another officer appeared behind him. "Sir, we've lost contact with the moon base. The colony on Mars is under heavy attack." "Listen carefully." Admiral Kim Du's eye spoke through the communication channel. "The Dauntless knows how to defeat their shields, but the ship needs repairs before it can fight. We need time." Admiral Choi nodded. "How long?" 2 hours, Kang Ho said, checking the ship's systems. "Maybe less if we hurry." "You have 1 hour," Admiral Choi said firmly. "That's all we can give you. Earth's fleet will try to hold them back." But a loud explosion interrupted him. The communication screen showed fire and smoke behind him. "They're attacking Earth's orbital defenses. We need the Dauntless now." The screen went dark as they lost the connection. Everyone on the bridge looked at each other, knowing they had to work fast. "Kang Ho, start the repair work," Han Jie ordered. "Moon Hee, watch those enemy ships. Yoon Soo, help get the weapons online." "I'll guide you through the repairs," the AI said. "Captain Song Mei, you need to learn the ship's tactical systems. You'll be controlling the main weapons when we fight." Song Mei nodded, trying to stay calm as she studied the complex controls. Through the bridge windows, she could see flashes of light in the distance, battles happening across the solar system. "Admiral," she asked the AI, "will this work?" Can we really defeat them? 200 years ago, we found their weakness, the AI replied. But we were trapped before we could use it. Now we have a second chance. We must not waste it. More alarms sounded. The screen showed 3 Nexus ships turning toward their position. They found us, Moon, he reported. They're coming this way. Keep working. Hanjai shouted. We're not losing this ship again. The massive dreadnought hummed as its ancient systems came back to life. They could feel the ship's power growing stronger. But the enemy was coming, and time was running out. In the space around them, humanity was fighting for survival once again. And their only hope was a lost ship from the past, waiting to reveal its secrets. Sparks flew in the engine room of the KSS Dauntless as Kang Ho worked on the power systems. His hands moved quickly, following the AI's instructions. The ship shook as another explosion lit up space outside. Those Nexus ships are getting closer, Yoon Su's voice came through the radio. 15 minutes until they reach us. Keep working, Han Jae ordered. He held a light for Kang Ho while checking the engine readings. How much longer? The temporal displacement changed things. Kang Ho said, wiping sweat from his forehead. Some parts are working better than they should, but others are strange. He pointed to a glowing blue panel. Look at this power core. It's putting out more energy than should be possible. On the bridge, Song Mai studied the weapon controls while Admiral Kim Do's AI explained their plan. The temporal bubble that trapped us had an unexpected effect, the AI said. It changed the ship's energy systems. We can use this to our advantage. But it's also dangerous, isn't it? Song Mai asked, noticing how some readings kept jumping between numbers. Yes, the ship exists partly outside normal time now. We must be careful how we use its power. Suddenly, a new alarm sounded. Moon Hee's voice came through the speakers. 3 more Nexus ships just appeared. They're coming from behind us. In the engine room, Kang Ho hit his hand against a panel in frustration. The main power couplings won't connect. Something's blocking them. Move aside, said a quiet voice. Everyone turned to see a young engineer standing in the doorway. He wore the uniform of Earth's Defense Forces and carried a toolkit. Who are you? Han Jae asked, surprised. Lee Jin. Earth Command sent me when they got your first message. I study temporal mechanics. He walked to the power panel and opened his toolkit. The problem isn't the couplings. It's time itself. Lee Jin pulled out a strange device and attached it to the power core. The blue glow steadied, and the jumping numbers on the display became stable. How did you do that? Kang Ho asked, amazed. The ship is fighting between 2 time streams. Lee Jin explained simply. We need to help it choose one. He pointed to more panels. Quick, help me add these stabilizers to the other systems. On the bridge, the AI noticed the change. Power levels are stabilizing. The young engineer understands our situation better than I expected. Song Mai watched as more systems came online. The weapons display lit up, showing new options she had never seen before. These aren't normal ship weapons, she said. No, the AI agreed. The temporal displacement changed them too. We can now fire weapons that affect time itself. A massive explosion rocked the ship. Moon Hee's voice was urgent. 2 Nexus ships in range. They're charging weapons. Engine room, status report. Song Mai called. Main power at 80%. Lee Jin answered. The temporal stabilizers are holding. Han Jae rushed back to the bridge, leaving Kang Ho and Lee Jin to finish their work. We need to move the ship. We're too vulnerable here. Agreed, the AI said. Captain Song Mai, power up the main engines. Lieutenant Han Jae, take the helm. As they worked, Song Mai noticed something on her tactical display. The Nexus ships, their shields look different up close. They're not just energy shields. Correct, the AI said. They're time-based defenses. That's why normal weapons couldn't hurt them. But now, another blast hit the ship. Warning lights flashed across every console. Engine room secured. Li Jin reported. All systems stable. 90 seconds until the Nexus ships are in firing range. Moon, he warned. Han Jie took the helm controls. The massive dreadnought hummed with power, its systems ready for battle after 200 years. Remember, the AI said, we only have one chance. If we use too much power, we might trap ourselves in another temporal bubble. Song Mei looked at the weapons controls, then at the approaching enemy ships on the screen. Everything they had learned about the ship in the past hour would be tested in the next few minutes. All stations, prepare for combat, Han Jie commanded. We're about to show them why this ship changed history the first time. The Dauntless turned to face its ancient enemies, its weapons charged with power that bent the rules of time itself. The real test was about to begin. The KSS Dauntless turned to face the approaching Nexus ships. As Han Jie steered the massive ship, the AI began sharing memories of its last battle. There's something you need to know, Admiral Kim Du's voice said. The main screen changed to show scenes from the past. In our final battle, we discovered why the Nexus Empire was truly unbeatable. The screen showed a massive space battle. Hundreds of ships fired at each other against the backdrop of stars. In the center, a younger version of the Dauntless fought against 3 Nexus ships. Their shields weren't just advanced technology, the AI continued. They were breaking the rules of time itself. Each shield existed in multiple moments at once. That's why our weapons couldn't hurt them. Song Mai watched the old battle footage while keeping an eye on the enemy ships approaching them now. How did you find out? By accident. Watch. The screen showed the Dauntless firing at a Nexus ship. The shot hit the shield, but instead of bouncing off, it seemed to split into multiple shots, each hitting the shield at a different time. Our main gun was damaged in the fight, the AI explained. It started misfiring, sending shots that were out of sync with normal time. That's when we saw their weakness. Li Jin looked up from his engineering console. The shields can't protect against attacks from multiple time streams at once, he said, understanding dawning on his face. Exactly. But before we could use this knowledge, they hit us with their temporal weapon. Instead of destroying us, it trapped us between moments of time. We've been waiting ever since, letting the temporal energy change our systems. Another blast rocked the ship. Moon He's voice was tense. Enemy ships in firing range. They're targeting our engines. Han Jie turned the ship sharply, avoiding the worst of the enemy fire. We can't keep dodging forever, he said. Are the weapons ready? Almost, Song Mai replied, her fingers moving over the controls. But something's wrong with the targeting system. It keeps showing multiple targets for each ship. That's not wrong, the AI said. You're seeing them in different moments of time. Fire at all the images you see. Our weapons will hit them across different time streams. Kang Ho's voice came through the radio. Power systems are becoming unstable again. The temporal energy is building up too fast. We have to act now, the AI urged. If we wait too long, we'll be trapped in another temporal bubble. Song Mei looked at the complex targeting display. She could see each enemy ship in multiple places at once, like looking at a picture that kept shifting. Her hand hovered over the fire control. Wait. Li Jin called out. The ship's temporal field is affecting our weapons too much. We need to balance it, or we'll tear ourselves apart. He ran to the bridge, carrying his temporal stabilizer. Working quickly, he attached it to the weapons console. The shifting images on the screen became clearer. Now, Captain, the AI commanded. Fire. Song Mei pressed the firing control. The Dauntless's main guns lit up with strange blue energy. The shots seemed to bend and twist as they flew through space, splitting into multiple beams. The Nexus ships tried to dodge, but the shots hit them from different directions, different moments in time. Their shields flickered and failed. It's working, Han Jie shouted. Their shields are down. But their victory was short-lived. More Nexus ships appeared, surrounding them in a tight circle. They're charging some kind of weapon, Moon He reported. The energy readings. They're just like the weapon that trapped this ship 200 years ago. They're trying to trap us again, the AI said. We can't let that happen. Not now that we know their weakness. The bridge crew watched as the enemy ships began to glow with temporal energy. They had found the Nexus Empire's weakness, but they were running out of time to use it. Admiral, Song Mai asked, her voice steady despite her fear. What happened in the last moments of your final battle? What else did you discover? Watch, the AI said, bringing up one last recording. This is what they were really afraid of. This is why they tried to erase us from time itself. The screen showed the last moments of that ancient battle, and a truth that would change everything. The screen showed the final moments of Admiral Kim Doo's last battle. A Nexus ship exploded, torn apart by the Dauntless's damaged weapons. But something else caught everyone's attention. Stop the recording there, Song Mai said, pointing at a small ship in the background. Enhance that image. The AI zoomed in on the ship. It wasn't a Nexus vessel. It was human-made. That's impossible, Han Jie whispered. Why would a human ship be fighting alongside the Nexus fleet? Because some humans believed surrender was better than fighting, the AI explained. They thought the Nexus Empire was too powerful to defeat. They wanted humanity to submit and become part of their empire. Before anyone could respond, the bridge door opened. Park Ta, the head of Earth's Defense Council, walked in with 4 armed guards. And they were right, Park Ta said coldly. Everyone turned to look at him. The Nexus Empire is superior. Fighting them will only lead to more death. Han Jie reached for his weapon, but the guards were faster. They pointed their guns at the bridge crew. Counselor Park, Song Mai said, keeping her voice calm. You're working with them. Park Ta nodded. For years, we knew they would return. Some of us prepared for it. He walked to the main console. The Nexus Empire offers order, advancement, peace. All we have to do is accept their rule. You're talking about slavery, Han Jie said angrily. I'm talking about survival, Park Ta shouted. Look what happened in the First War. Millions died. Entire colonies were destroyed. And now, he gestured at the screen showing the battles across the solar system. It's happening again. He slowly moved her hand toward the emergency alarm, but one of the guards saw her and fired a warning shot. Don't move, the guard ordered. Counselor Park has orders from the Nexus Empire. They want this ship. Li Jin spoke up from his engineering station. The temporal weapons, that's what they're afraid of, isn't it? They know we can beat them now. Park Ta smiled, but it wasn't friendly. The Nexus Empire has offered us a deal. Give them the Dauntless and its temporal technology, and they'll spare Earth. Resist, and they'll destroy everything. You believe them? Song Mai asked. After what they did 200 years ago. I've seen their power, their technology. Humanity can't win this fight. Park Ta took out a small device. Now step away from the controls. My engineers will take over the ship. But before anyone could move, Admiral Kim Doo's voice filled the bridge. You're not the first traitor I faced, Counselor. The lights on the bridge dimmed. 200 years ago, it was people like you who nearly destroyed humanity. Park Ta laughed. You're just a computer program, Admiral. You can't stop us. No, the AI agreed. But I can do this. Suddenly, all the doors on the bridge sealed shut. The guards looked around nervously. What are you doing? Park Ta demanded. The same thing I did to the traitors in my time. I'm giving the loyal crew a chance to fight back. The lights went out completely. In the darkness, they heard sounds of struggle. When emergency lights came on, Han Jie and Moon, he had disarmed 2 of the guards. Song Mai held another at gunpoint. Only Park Ta was still free, backing away from them. You're making a mistake, he said, holding up his hands. The Nexus Empire can't be beaten. Their technology, their power, can be defeated, Li Jin interrupted. He pointed to his readings. The temporal weapons work. We've proved it. Humanity has a chance, but not if we surrender. Park Tai reached for his pocket. Then you leave me no choice. He pulled out another device, this one blinking red. If I can't have this ship, no one will. Bomb. Moon, he shouted. But before anyone could move, something strange happened. The device in Park Tae's hand began to glow with the same blue energy as the ship's temporal field. Then it vanished, along with the top layer of skin from his hand. What did you do? He gasped, clutching his injured hand. Temporal displacement field, Li Jin explained. Anything dangerous to the ship gets pushed out of our time stream. The Admiral and I set it up while you were talking. Han Jae moved to arrest Park Ta. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them about the traitors. Already done, the AI said. But we have bigger problems. Look. The main screen showed more Nexus ships arriving. Dozens of them. They're not here to negotiate anymore, Song Mai said. They're here to finish what they started 200 years ago. The crew looked at each other. The traitors were caught, but the real battle was just beginning. Li Jin stared at his engineering screens in amazement. After stopping Park Tae's bomb, the ship's temporal field had grown stronger. Numbers and readings flashed across his display, showing power levels he had never seen before. Admiral. He called out, something's happening to the ship's systems. The AI's voice was curious. Yes, I see it. The temporal energy is spreading through the whole ship now. It's changing everything it touches. Han Jia looked worried as he watched new readings appear on the bridge controls. Is that dangerous? Not dangerous, Li Jin said, his eyes wide with understanding. It's incredible. The ship isn't just displacing time anymore. He paused, trying to find simple words to explain it. It's learning from every moment it exists in. Song Mi moved to look at his screen. What do you mean? The temporal bubble that trapped this ship for 200 years. It didn't just preserve the ship. It made it better. Li Jin pointed to different readings. Look here. The weapon systems are drawing power from multiple moments in time at once. They're becoming stronger than they ever were. Moon Hee's voice cut through their conversation. More Nexus ships approaching. At least 50 of them. The main screen showed the enemy fleet spreading out around them. Their ships glowed with strange energy as they prepared to fire. They know, the AI said. They can sense what's happening to us. That's why they're attacking now, before we become too strong. Kang Ho's voice came through the radio from the engine room. The power core is pulsing with temporal energy. It's like the ship is remembering things that haven't happened yet. Li Jin ran to another console, his fingers flying over the controls. That's exactly what it's doing. The ship exists in so many different moments now. It's learning from all of them at once. A blast from a Nexus ship hit them, but something strange happened. Instead of shaking the ship, the energy seemed to flow into their shields, making them stronger. The temporal field, Li Jin said excitedly. It's not just protecting us. It's taking their attacks and using them to make our systems better. Can we use this? Han Jae asked, looking at the approaching enemy fleet. Better than that, the AI replied. Watch. The main screen changed to show their weapon systems, but they looked different now. The normal gun ports were glowing with swirling blue energy. The ship's weapons have evolved, the AI explained. They don't just fire through time anymore. They can change time itself. Another hit from the enemy fleet, stronger this time. But again, their shields only grew more powerful. We need to act now, Song Mai said, looking at the tactical display. They're surrounding us. Li Jin ran back to his main station. The temporal field is stable. All systems are ready. But he looked up at them. If we use this much power, we don't know what will happen. We might change more than just this battle. It's a risk we have to take, Han Jae said firmly. Earth is counting on us. Song Mi took her place at the weapons console. The controls hummed under her hands, feeling alive with power. Target their command ships, the AI instructed. The temporal weapons will do the rest. Moon-hee called out from her station. Enemy ships charging weapons. They're all targeting us at once. Now, Captain, the AI commanded. Fire. Song-Mei pressed the firing controls. The Dauntless's weapons blazed to life, but what came out wasn't normal energy beams. Waves of temporal force burst from the ship, rippling through space like rings in a pond. Where the waves touched the Nexus ships, strange things happened. Some ships seemed to age hundreds of years in seconds, falling apart into clouds of rust. Others shifted and changed, their advanced technology becoming simpler, older versions of itself. It's working, Han-Joy shouted. Their fleet is losing power. But the Nexus Empire wasn't done. Their remaining ships began to fire, their weapons charged with their own temporal energy. Brace for impact. Moon, he warned. As the enemy fire approached, Li Jin looked up from his console with wide eyes. The temporal fields are going to collide, he said. This is it. This is how everything changes. The crew of the Dauntless watched as two different kinds of temporal energy rushed toward each other in space. Whatever happened next would change the course of the war, and maybe history itself. The two waves of temporal energy met in space. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. Then the explosion began. Time itself seemed to break around the Dauntless. The crew watched as space filled with strange lights and colors they had never seen before. Hull breach on Deck 3, Kang Ho shouted through the radio. The temporal energy is tearing holes in the ship. Han-Jae grabbed his controls tighter as the ship shook. How bad is it? Not normal holes, Li Jin said, checking his readings. Time holes. Parts of the ship are slipping between different moments. Through the main window, they could see pieces of their ship appearing and disappearing, showing different versions of itself from different times. Admiral, Song-Mai called out, what's happening to us? The temporal energies are mixing, the AI explained. Our weapons and their weapons are fighting for control of time itself. Moon-hee's voice was urgent. Message from Earth Command. The Nexus fleet is launching their final attack. They're targeting Earth directly. The main screen showed hundreds of Nexus ships moving toward Earth. The planet's defenses were already weakened from earlier attacks. We have to stop them, Han-Jae said. Can we still fight? Li Jin worked quickly at his console. The ship is holding together, but barely. If we use our weapons again, we might tear ourselves apart. We don't have a choice, Song-Mai said. She looked at the tactical display, where Earth's remaining ships were gathering for one last battle. The AI's voice was firm. She's right. 200 years ago, we found a way to defeat them. Now we must finish what we started. Suddenly, the ship shook again. A hole opened in the middle of the bridge, but it wasn't a normal hole. Through it, they could see the same bridge from different times. Sometimes empty, sometimes filled with its original crew from 200 years ago. The temporal field is collapsing. Li Jin shouted, we're losing control. No, the AI said calmly. We're gaining it. Look. The hole in the bridge began to stabilize. Through it, they could see Admiral Kim Do himself, from 200 years ago, standing at the same controls they were using now. The timelines are connecting, Li Jin said with wonder. Past and present, they're becoming one. Song-Mi understood first. We can fight together. Past and present, all at once. The AI's voice merged with the image of Admiral Kim Do they could see through the time hole. Exactly. Now we have two crews, from two times, fighting as one. More holes opened throughout the ship, but they weren't dangerous anymore. Through each one, they could see the original crew working alongside them. All weapons stations, prepare to fire, Han-Jae ordered, and his voice echoed strangely as the admiral from the past gave the same order. The Nexus ships were almost in range of Earth, their weapons charged, ready to destroy humanity's homeworld. Fire everything. Song-Mai, and the past crew shouted together. The Dauntless's weapons fired, but this time they were twice as powerful. Energy from past and present combined into one massive wave of temporal force. The wave hit the Nexus fleet. Ships began to break apart, not just from damage, but from time itself coming apart around them. Their advanced technology couldn't handle existing in multiple timelines at once. "It's working." Moon, he called out. "Their fleet is falling apart." But the Dauntless was breaking too. The strain of connecting two timelines was too much for the ship to handle. "Hull integrity failing," Kang Ho reported. "We can't take much more of this." Li Jin looked up from his console, his face pale. "The temporal field is growing. If we don't stop it soon, we'll be trapped between times, just like the ship was before." Han Jay turned to where the image of Admiral Kim Do stood beside them. "Admiral, what do we do?" The Admiral looked at his modern crew, pride in his eyes. "We finish this, whatever it costs." The Dauntless turned to face the remaining Nexus ships, its weapons charged with the power of two timelines. Earth hung behind them, counting on them for protection. The final battle for humanity's future was about to end, one way or another. Sarah kept walking through the forest. The sun was starting to go down. It would be dark soon. She needed to find a safe place to spend the night. The forest was quiet. All Sarah could hear was the sound of her own footsteps. Leaves and twigs crunched under her shoes. A cool breeze made the leaves on the trees rustle. As the sun sank lower, shadows grew longer. The forest looked different now, strange and a little scary. Sarah walked faster. She wanted to get out of the deep woods before night fell. Up ahead, Sarah saw a clearing. She walked towards it, hoping it would be a good spot to make camp. But as she stepped out of the trees, she froze. There was already someone in the clearing. A figure sat on a fallen log. Their back to Sarah. A small campfire burned in front of them. Gray smoke drifted up into the darkening sky. Sarah didn't move. Who was this person? A fellow traveler? Or something more dangerous? She watched from the edge of the clearing, unsure what to do next. Unsure if she should run back into the forest or walk into the clearing and make her presence known.